Hi guys and welcome to another video. In today's video I will be telling you individual tips for all the 19 subjects. Now this is not a video in which I will be discussing the important topics of all the 19 subjects, but instead I will be discussing everything apart from that I learned from my experience of learning these 19 subjects a couple of times. If you want a convenient list of all the important topics from all 19 subjects in one place, then Dr. Apoor Mehra and his team at PrepLadder have made an amazing list that I referred to during my preparation. I'll put a link to that in the description down below. The order that I'll be following for today's subjects is the NBE order of Part A, Part B and Part C. So let's dive straight into it. The first subject on the list is anatomy. And my very first tip for anatomy actually would be to not start your preparation with anatomy. Anatomy tends to be a very fact heavy and volatile subject, and early on in your NEET PG preparation you may not be as used to swallowing a lot of facts day in and day out, and if you start with a very fact heavy subject like anatomy, you might get a skewed idea of what lies ahead and it might just demoralize you. Many people start their preparation with anatomy simply because they don't know a good order in which they should study their subject, and anatomy just comes first in a list of all subjects of MBBS. Remember that every decision you get to make this year is an opportunity to strategize. There should be a good reason behind what you do. You can either start with your strong subjects if you want to get the momentum going, or you can start with your weak subjects and get them out of the way first. In my personal opinion, I think it is good to attack the most dreaded subjects early, because if you don't, then you will just avoid them throughout the year and it will be kept for the end, at which point you'll be under a time crunch, and under a time crunch a subject that you don't like, it will just affect the quality of which you study it with. My second tip for anatomy is to study anatomy along with a Netter's Atlas of Human Anatomy. Ideally, you should have this atlas since first year, and even if it's not a Netter's Atlas, if it's any other human atlas, it is fine. What an atlas does is that it puts images in your head which helps retain a factual subject like anatomy for a longer time. So whenever you're studying a particular topic in anatomy, open the corresponding image in the atlas and look at it once before you study this. Another thing that you should do is write down the page number of that image in the atlas in that topic in your notes, so that when you're studying your notes for a second or third time, you don't have to look for that image in the atlas again. Instead, you can just quickly open to the page number that you have already written in the notes for it. When you go throughout the same image and the same text 3 or 4 times a year, I think it helps you retain anatomy in a much better way. Let's come to the second subject in the list now, and that is physiology. So physiology to me as a subject contains only 3 things, and that is concepts, formulae and values. Concepts are those that you just need to read once, and once you understand them, you remember them for the year. Whereas formulae and values are arbitrary and you need to mark them up. The problem with notes is going to be that the concepts, formulae and values in each chapter are going to be scattered throughout. So what I had done during my preparation was that I noted down all the formulae and the values in as many chapters as I could into my 20th notebook. The concepts in physiology I really did not need to revise again. What needed revision was only these formulae and values. So those 15 pages in my 20th notebook were enough for me to revise the entire subject. I think it was extremely time saving and efficient, and I would suggest everyone to do the same. As a part of this video, I'm actually giving away those pages of my 20th notebook to you guys. You can find that also in the description down below. Feel free to rewrite it completely, add your own points to it, or just use it as is. It is completely up to you. My last tip for physiology is that the notes sometimes feel inadequate or very short, but that's only because physiology is a subject from which one line they can make 20 questions. From one formula they can make 20 questions. So trust your notes, no matter which notes they are, trust your notes. Everything is already in there, solve many questions on it so that you come to know how different questions can be asked on the same topic. That brings us to the end of physiology. Let's come to biochemistry now. If you still haven't started with biochemistry, then I would highly recommend Dr. Rebecca James's videos. Biochemistry to us feels like just a lot of compounds, a lot of enzymes, a lot of terms. But when a biochemist actually teaches it to you along with the chemical formula for it, it suddenly makes more sense. You don't actually need to remember these chemical formulae, but when you study it for the first time along with the chemical formula at least, you understand the concept behind it and you can retain it for a much longer time. A few high yielding topics that you must definitely never leave out are the inborn errors of metabolism. If there is any disease in biochemistry, then you need to know everything around it. Another thing that is commonly neglected is the genetics part of biochemistry. I think because it comes in the later parts of the notes, by which we are a little bit tired even during our revisions. But questions are consistently asked from genetics. They are very easy as compared to the rest of biochemistry in my opinion, so definitely do not miss out on them. All in all, I would say that part A itself is a very scoring part of your paper. The 3 subjects, that is anatomy, physiology and biochemistry, have facts in them that have not changed since a lot of years and they are never going to change. So the scope for asking a twisted question around a topic is slightly less, and I would say it is the section in which you can even get 50 out of 50 questions correct. So definitely keep that in mind when you're studying part A. Let us come to part B now. The first subject in part B is pathology, and the way I would suggest you do pathology is this. Deduct 2 or 3 days from the number of days that you have allotted for pathology, and in the remaining days complete general pathology including hematology, and of the systemic pathology do only renal system for now. Majority of your questions are going to be asked from general pathology only, and the one system that they keep repeating questions from is renal. The rest of the systems are relatively less important, but you still have to do them. Just not right now, but along with medicine, which I will explain in detail when we come to our discussion on medicine. Image based questions from renal histology and immunofluorescence are very common, and in hematology, the CD markers that you have are dead giveaways whenever they appear in a question. And what I mean by that is, let's say there is a question which has a CD marker given in it, it has symptoms, it has absolute cell values, and it also has a bone marrow image. Now, even if you don't know the symptoms or the counts or the bone marrow image, the CD marker itself is enough to tell you what the answer is. I cannot tell you how many questions you will be able to solve simply by knowing the CD markers and the disease they are associated with. Also, this is a kind of difficult topic, but that is an opportunity for you to gain an upper hand. The next subject in the list is microbiology. A large subject like microbiology is divided itself into only 6 sections, that is general, immunology, bacteriology, virology, parasitology and mycology. So whenever you have like a big subject divided into very few sections, expect some MCQs to come from each of those sections. What that means to you is that even if you have a weak topic within a section, it is fine, but don't have an entire weak section. For example, if rickettsial diseases is your weakness within bacteriology, it is fine. But don't have bacteriology as the weakness thinking that the rest of the subject will cover up for it. There are going to be guaranteed questions from bacteriology because it is one of the sections. So make sure you don't neglect one full section. My second tip in microbiology is to do microbiology and pathology back to back. It doesn't matter which one you do first and which one you do next, but do them back to back because the topic of immunology is common to both of them. Just as reading the same topic from the same notes again and again helps you retain it longer, reading the same topic from 2 different subjects gives you 2 different perspectives on the same topic, which helps you gain a deeper understanding of that topic itself, again which will help you retain it for a longer time. Just as pathology had CD markers as dead giveaways to answers, microbiology also has culture media, which if they appear in a question can sometimes give you the answer right away. So what I had done for microbiology is that I made a separate list in my 20th notebook of all the bacteria and their culture media, and it helped me solve a lot of questions throughout the year. Another high yield point that I would say about microbiology is that image based questions are a lot from microbiology. So make sure you solve its image bank a couple of times. It would be very helpful if you made a list of all the parasitology eggs and what their organisms are. Next, let us come to the subject of pharmacology. Pharmacology is a very vast and very volatile subject. My philosophy when it comes to subjects like these is that the amount of time that goes into mugging up these very volatile points is worth much more studying the high yield points of that subject or a different subject. So what I had done for pharmacology is that I would revise those topics which I saw they were asking much more frequently and I was getting wrong consistently. For me, this was antimicrobials, anti-cancer drugs, and a list of monoclonal antibodies. These topics I had revised multiple number of times, and the rest of the topics I had revised few number of times. The one big bonus that we have in pharmacology is general pharmacology. Since it's a very important section, they have to ask questions from general pharmacology. And since it is way more conceptual than the rest of the subjects, in my opinion, wherever there are concepts, it's easier and it's very scoring. So make sure your general pharmacology is strong so that it boosts your score in pharmacology. Next, let us come to the subject of forensic medicine and toxicology. My number one tip for FMT would be to not miss out on the IPCs. One question from IPC is an almost guarantee in every meet, and it's sort of difficult, which is why a lot of people just choose to leave it altogether. But this is not an exam where you can do something like that. You have to gain the upper hand and gain those 4 extra marks over those people who decided to leave it altogether. In fact, there are topics like this distributed throughout the syllabus, and these are the topics that are the real game changers. If you know the answers in these topics, then you can easily gain 20 to 30 marks over everyone else, and that will just boost your rank like anything. Some of the very commonly asked questions in FMT are image-based questions from asphyxiation and death. Just like microbiology had its sections, remember that toxicology is also an entire section of the subject. If there are 10 questions coming from FMT in a paper, then it will never happen that all 10 are coming from forensic medicine and 0 are coming from toxicology. There will always come some questions from toxicology. So don't leave it as a section altogether. Now, a very important tip that I want to tell you, especially for interns, which is applicable for subjects like FMT, ENT, psychiatry, and ortho, is that I found that in these subjects the question bank was much larger than the notes. So for these subjects and these subjects only, I would suggest that you not add any extra points from the question bank to your notes. Instead, just bookmark every question that you get wrong and every question that you feel is from outside of your notes. If you want to add one or two small points from the question bank to topics that already exist in your notes, by all means you can go ahead. Now what this means is that when you come back for a revision of the subject, not only do you have to go through the entire notes, but you also have to go through those bookmarks. With every revision, those questions that you had gotten wrong during your first reading, you'll slowly start getting correct and start unbookmarking these. So by the time you come to your final reading, you will only have to read your notes and a very select set of bookmarks. This is the only way that I feel these short subjects can be done in a span of 3 or 4 days that I have allotted it according to my schedule. The benefit for interns is that these bookmarks they can actually go back to during any free time they have during the hospital. In fact, not just interns, if any of us who have to go out for a function or have like a pocket of 5 minutes, you can utilize this by going through these bookmarks of these subjects. It is always good to have something to study whenever you're in the mood to study, regardless of where you are. Next, let us come to the subject of community medicine. My number one tip for community medicine would be that towards the end of the year, follow the faculty because they will be updating you with all the recent changes that the government has made in the policies for this year. I remember last year Dr. Mukmohit Singh had released a 20-point PSM booster. It was absolutely amazing and helped me a lot not only to revise the recent update but also points throughout the subject. The second thing about PSM is that they discontinued the use of calculators in the exam hall. Questions in biostatistics have moved from more numerical to more theoretical ones. So now you don't just need to know the formula, but you also need to know why that formula is used and how that formula came to be. In fact, wherever there are formula and numbers involved in PSM, they are very important, like screening or study design or any of those chapters. That was the end of part B according to the NBE division of subjects. Now we come to the most important part of the video, which is how to study medicine. Now medicine was always my weak subject and I found the thought of studying all of medicine in one long stretch of 8 to 10 days very daunting. So what I did was I devised a technique to study medicine which I will share with you today, and I think it helped me a lot. So what I did was that I studied medicine one subject at a time. And what I mean by that is, let's take the example of respiratory system. So if I start my reading with respiratory system, then on day 1 I would study respiratory system from medicine along with all its QBank modules. On day 2, instead of moving on to another system, let's say CVS, I would do the respiratory system again from physiology, pathology and pharmacology. What this did was that it created gaps between each system of medicine so that I didn't have to study it all together in one stretch. Another advantage of this was that after you have just read a respiratory system from medicine, reading respiratory system from physiology, pathology and pharmacology is a much faster process as compared to reading the entire subject of pathology or pharmacology in one go. Another big advantage of this was that by the time I finished one reading of medicine, I had actually finished an additional reading of 3 entire subjects. I believe this to be a very efficient way to study medicine. This is how I had done it and I hope you guys find it useful. Next subject in the list is dermatology. Now dermatology is again one of those subjects from which image based questions are a guarantee. Plus being a short subject, it has a very limited image bank. So definitely go through the image bank and get a few guaranteed questions correct. Very important topics in these are the papilloscomus disorders like psoriasis and vesicobular disorders. It's almost a guarantee that questions will come from these topics. Additionally, a few more topics that are indispensable, I would say, are STDs and leprosy. We'll come to the next subject now, which is psychiatry. Once again, I will remind you that psychiatry is among those subjects like FMT, ENT and ortho in which you don't need to add every extra point from the question bank to your notes. Despite being a short subject, psychiatry actually has many sections and MCQs are distributed from throughout the entire syllabus. But if I were to say 2 topics that were more important, then number 1 would be psychopharmacology, which is all the drugs that are used in psychiatry, and the second would be psychiatric time frames, which is the time required to diagnose a person with a particular disease. That's it for psychiatry. Let's come to the next subject now, which is surgery. Now whenever it comes to large subjects like surgery or medicine, there are bound to come questions in the exam which will be from outside of your notes. But in my opinion, it is not worth running after these questions and trying to expand the notes for already large subjects. Instead, if you know those set of notes very efficiently and get 20 out of those 25 questions correct, then I think you're doing good and you can utilize your valuable time in other more high yielding subjects. So stick to whichever notes you have. Verify whether those notes are good by solving any question bank with it. If majority of the questions asked in the question bank are being covered in your notes, then they are good notes. No need to read beyond them. I had read Dr. Rohan Khandelwal sir's Marrow notes, and I think they are more than enough, even if a few questions are going to come from outside of it. If there were two topics which I had to say are consistently asked from surgery, then that would be breast and thyroid. Make sure you know every little point from that because everybody else will know it. The next subject after surgery is orthopedics. Like I said, that I felt that the orthopedics question bank was very huge as compared to the notes in Marrow. But that was edition 3, and in edition 4 they say they have edited the modules. I don't know whether they've actually made it shorter. In case they have, then you can by all means add extra points from the question bank to your notes. An additional tip that I would say if you haven't yet read orthopedics would be to buy Dr. Abbas Ali sir's workbook that he has made. I have not yet seen the workbook, but I feel it is one place where you can get all the information as well as all the images and instruments in one place. It is short and concise, and I just feel it would be a very good way to read and revise orthopedics very efficiently and something that you don't need to look beyond. Some of the more repeated questions in ortho would be bone tumors, and for both ortho and surgery actually, anything which has an eponym, that is the name of a scientist or a place or a person, just like those CD markers and culture media is a clincher. If you know all these names, surgeries and topics from these two subjects, then I think it helps you boost your score a lot and very easily. After orthopedics, the next subject is anesthesia. Anesthesia, just like microbiology, has 6 sections, that is general anesthesia, IV drugs, inhaled drugs, muscle relaxants, local anesthetics, and regional anesthesia. So just like every other subject with sections, expect questions to come from each of these sections. My second tip for anesthesia would be that in the chapters that have individual drugs, anesthetic drugs and their physiological effects, I would say don't put a lot of effort into learning the physiological effects of each and every drug. Instead, you can focus more only on the odd points of each and every drug. And by odd points, I mean something like a very unique toxicity or a very unique MAC or any point that is unique only to that drug. Even if you make a list of unique points for each drugs, majority of the questions will come only from that, and even though some questions may be asked from the individual physiological effects, I think it would be high effort and low yield. That is just my opinion. If you do actually learn all the physiological effects of all the drugs, that will of course help you. The next subject in the list is radiology. My tip for radiology would be to do radiology if possible after you have done medicine, surgery and ortho. The question bank in these subjects has many of the images of CT scans and X-rays that actually get repeated again in radiology. So if you have already learned them over there, your reading of radiology will be much faster, and the only thing that will be new for you in radiology will be those chapters of general radiology on CT scan, X-rays and MRIs. The next subject in the list is obstetrics and gynecology. Now, I remember for obstetrics and gynecology, a senior of mine had said to me that you will not have to look outside of the notes. I have read notes both by Dr. Deepti Bahl as well as Dr. Sakshi Arora Hans. Both are excellent notes and both are excellent teachers, which is why I could not just stick to one notes, but I would say you choose any one and stick to that instead of wasting time like I did. In terms of size, Marrow notes as usual are slightly bigger as compared to DAMS notes, but any one are actually enough. Make sure you solve a question bank and add extra points from that question bank to your notes, and after that your notes should be pretty much foolproof. After obstetrics and gynecology we have pediatrics. Again, pediatrics has this section of neonatology. That section of neonatology is actually very small compared to the rest of the subjects, and it has guaranteed questions coming from it. So this is what I would call a low input high yielding topic. Identify such topics across all subjects and do not miss out on them ever. The second tip of pediatrics is a topic which you should not miss out on, which is developmental milestones. Just like IPCs, this is one topic that everyone's sort of scared of and they leave out, but that is your chance to gain 4 extra marks above them. Surprisingly, last year in the NEET they did not ask us a pediatric milestone. I had my own technique of learning it all and it has all gone to waste. Maybe I'll share it with you in another video. But I still think you should do milestones because it might just reappear in the following exams. Next we come to ENT. By now I'm sure you already know that ENT is one of those subjects between ENT, FMT, psychiatry and ortho for which it is okay even if you solve the question bank and only bookmark the extra points instead of adding them. It will be time saving and you can go through those bookmarks whenever you have any free time. Again, this subject has a lot of eponyms and a lot of eponymous surgeries, that is surgeries with a lot of names of people or a lot of signs that have a lot of names of people. So questions from eponyms are always going to be asked, and in a short subject it is extremely beneficial for you because you only have to learn very few eponyms and guaranteed questions are going to come from it. Last we'll come to the subject of ophthalmology. Now ophthalmology was always sort of a difficult and weak subject for me. Many people consider it a short subject, but in my opinion it's actually not that short because it has a lot of factual topics as well. Harder chapters like retina and neuro ophthalmology are where most of the questions are actually asked from, and many images of all the instruments and the procedure that is done with that instrument. Ophthalmoscopy and OCT images are also very common and upcoming, so don't miss out on that. With that, guys, we have come not only to the end of this list of 19 subjects and their tips, but we have also come to the end of my detailed strategy that I had mentioned in my first video. There were many points that I spoke about in my first video, like I spoke about my aim of reading the entire syllabus 6 times, but then in my grand test video I explained how that strategy slowly changed and evolved. Then in my first video I also gave you a schedule of 3 months to follow, but in that schedule medicine had only 8 days in it. But it is only after you watch today's video that you come to know it is okay even if you cross 8 days, because if you follow the technique that I have advised, then in those days not only do you finish medicine very efficiently, but you also finish additional readings of 3 extra subjects. This way all those videos from the first video till this video form my entire strategy that I used. The reason that I wanted you guys to know this in such detail is not so that you can ape it just as I did. You may or may not apply it in its entirety. Some aspects of my strategy may not be suited to your strengths, and you can modify it as much as you like, even completely if you like. My technique is not the only formula for success. Tomorrow you guys are going to get great ranks, and then the strategy that you followed will be another formula for success. On that very positive note, guys, I will conclude this video. As always, guys, all the best and happy studying.